You know that feeling when your team's workflow is just a complete maze? Well, in this explainer, we're handing you the map. We're going to break down exactly how to turn those tangled, confusing processes into super clear visual guides that literally anyone can follow. All right, let's get right into it. Seriously, think about it for a second. When a new project kicks off, or hey, when a new person joins your team, what do they get? Is it a crystal clear roadmap, or are they just thrown into this labyrinth of confusing tasks and, really vague handoffs? That right there is the exact problem the process modeling is designed to solve.
Okay, so why bother? I mean, what's the big deal about drawing out all these diagrams? What's the actual payoff? Let's get down to the fundamentals.
The secret sauce here is something called notations. Now, the best way to think about these is like a universal language for your business. It's a shared set of symbols, right? So that means anyone, and I mean anyone, from the folks on the warehouse floor all the way up to the C-suite, can look at one of these diagrams and just get it instantly. Everyone's speaking the same visual language.
And believe me, the payoff is huge. First off, you get immediate clarity, even on the most complex workflows. Everything becomes standardized, so everyone is finally on the same page. You also get solid documentation, which is a lifesaver for training and audits. And here's the kicker. It makes analysis so much easier. You can literally see the bottlenecks and roadblocks just staring you in the face.
All right, so that's the why. Now let's talk about the how. We're going to look at 4 key notations. And it's important to think of these not as competing with each other, but more like different tools in a toolkit, Each one is perfect for a specific job. First on the list is BPMN. This one's kind of a heavyweight champion of the industry. It's pretty much the gold standard when you need to create really detailed, comprehensive maps of how things actually work. So if you've got to show the entire end-to-end flow with all the nitty-gritty rules and interactions, BPMN is the one you've got to know.
And it's all built on these 4 simple shapes. You've got your circle, which is just the start or the end of a process. The rectangle, that's a task, something that needs to get done. The diamond is a decision point, a yes or no fork in the road. And of course, the arrow just shows you which way things are flowing. It looks simple, right? But with just these, you can build some incredibly powerful, detailed maps.
Okay, next up we have UML. Now this one originally came out of the software engineering world, but its activity diagrams are actually fantastic for business analysis too. What UML is really, really good at is showing how control, or information, flows through a system. It's perfect when you need to track one specific thing. So let's say you've got a customer complaint. A UML diagram would be perfect for mapping its entire journey. See, you're not trying to map the whole company here. You're just following the path of that one complaint ticket, from the moment it's received to how it's categorized and then where it gets sent for a resolution. It's all about following that single piece of info. And then we have the classic flowchart. I'm pretty sure everyone has seen one of these before. The real beauty of the flowchart is just how simple it is. This is your go-to when you need to map out a pretty straightforward process, something with simple, clear-cut decisions.
The symbols are probably familiar to you, right? The oval for start and end, the rectangle for a step, the diamond for a decision. A hiring process is a perfect example. You post a job, you review applications, and then, boom, you hit that diamond. Is this candidate a good fit for an interview? The flowchart makes that yes or no moment super clear, without adding a bunch of extra complexity you don't need.
Last on our list is Sipoc. Okay, so if the other tools we've talked about are like your detailed street-level map, Sipoc is the 30,000-foot satellite view. This is very often where you start. It's designed to give you that big picture, high-level overview of a whole process before you even think about diving into the details. Sipoc is actually an acronym, and it guides you through the whole value chain. You start with the suppliers. Who's giving you the stuff you need? Then the inputs. What is that stuff? Then you look at the core process that turns those inputs into outputs. And finally, who are the customers receiving those outputs? It's really the perfect way to get everyone on the same page about the scope of what you're looking at before you zoom in with something more detailed like BPMN.
Okay, so we've seen the tools, we know when to use them. Now for the fun part. Let's actually put this stuff into practice. We're going to move from theory to a real-world example and build a process model right from scratch.
And we're going to use a scenario that I think we can all relate to, a customer placing an order online. We're going to map out that entire fulfillment process from the moment they click that buy button all the way to the package finally landing on their doorstep. Now, a good business analyst doesn't just start drawing randomly. There's a method here, right? So first, you got to define the process. What are its start and end points? Then you identify all the stakeholders involved. After that, you pick the right tool for the job. In this case, we're going with BPMN because we need that detail and we have decision points. Then you actually create the diagram. And the final, crucial step is to review it with all those stakeholders to make sure you got it right. So let's start building this thing. The process kicks off with a start event, that circle, and we'll label it order received. Right after that, we draw our first task, the rectangle, and that's going to be process payment. Simple enough, right? That clearly shows the first 2 steps in the sequence.
And now for a really important piece, the gateway, that diamond shape. This is our fork in the road. The whole process has to pause here until a key question is answered. This forces us to actually plan for what happens next for both possible outcomes.
So if the payment is successful, we follow the yes path.
So, if the payment is successful, we followed the yes path. That leads us through a whole sequence of tasks: pick items, pack items, and ship order. And that leads us to our end event, job done. But if the payment fails, we go down a no path, which triggers a totally different task: notify customer of failure. And just like that, the diagram neatly shows both the happy path and what happens when things go wrong.
All right, so we've looked at the tools, we even built a little map together, but let's bring this all back home. Why does this matter to you? In your day-to-day work, how does having this kind of blueprint actually make a real difference for your team? Well, having a clear process map is an absolute game changer. It totally streamlines communication because now everyone has the same playbook. It helps you find and get rid of those hidden problems that slow everything down. It's an amazing training tool for getting new people up to speed fast. And it gives you all the documentation you'll ever need for things like compliance and audits. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. Back in your own job, what's that one process? You know the one I'm talking about, the one that always causes confusion or delays, the one that still feels way more like a maze than a map. That is your starting point. So what's the very first process you're going to map out?